trusting my gut and saying, you know what, I'm just going to do this and kind of figure out what I need to do, it kind of like snowballed. And once I made one hard decision, and even if it didn't go great, but I did it and I realized I could overcome it and then get to the next thing and just follow whatever my intuition was telling me, I realized trusting myself in that feeling was far more what was going to make me successful than just kind of staying the course, waiting it out, do your time type thing. That wasn't working for me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Blueprint and FPA NexGen podcast. Today's episode, Alison and I have our good friend Nichole Graham, and we're going to get into a couple of cool things. She dives into contract work and owning your own schedule, trusting yourself and how that opens up a lot of different avenues and opportunities, and how listening is the quickest way to build trust and win more clients. Let's take it away.
Hello, I am so excited for today's episode because we have a close friend of mine, Nichole, joining us today. Nichole Graham, welcome to the podcast. To start us out, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and how you got into financial planning as a field.
Great. Thank you, Allison. I'm so excited to be here. And Mike, too. Quick note, I guess. I just am so thankful to have both of you in my life and through NextGen and meeting you wherever we are in the country. It's always great to see you. So I'm happy to be here. My name is Nichole Graham. I am a financial analyst at Wellspring Divorce Advisors and a financial advisor at Regista Financial Strategies. I live in Alexandria, Virginia, right outside of DC, and I've moved around a few times.
Okay, so let's start there. Moving around a few times because that's a big one. It's a big deal to move around. Talk us through each time you've made a move. What were the thoughts that went into that decision?
My first move, I was born and raised in Central Mass, and I knew after grad school I was itching for a change. So I moved to San Diego, and I spent about 4 years in North County, San Diego. Absolutely loved it. It was such a great transformational time of my life. That's where I also started my first job. Moved back across the country to Virginia Beach, spent a little time there, and now I'm in Alexandria.
So in each of those moves, you have to ask yourself a lot of pros and cons of upending it your whole life and starting over in a new place, as well as some complexities with your work environment as well. So can you walk us through a few challenges you've faced since graduating and entering into financial planning and how you've overcome those challenges?
I think the first challenge, the first move felt really scary, and it felt like it was something that was kind of like permanent, and I was just making a decision. I was finding a firm that I was going to work at forever and I was going to be kind of stuck there. But then I think once you start doing things a few times and branching out, you start seeing these things are not that scary, and you're like, okay, this next one, I have this opportunity. Like, let's try it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You can move again or bounce around. And so different things have brought me different places and different opportunities. And one thing that's been really great for me is with my work is a lot of it has turned to fully remote work. And so the idea of like leaving behind my work has never been something that's held me back from these moves, which was really exciting. My first job out of college, though, it was in person, but it happened in fall of 2019. And we know a few months later what happened. And so it quickly became remote work. And so sometimes I was questioning, I was like, why did I move all the way across the country to such an expensive place just to work remote? But I ended up taking that opportunity as like, oh, I can do this work from anywhere and really have embraced that.
So continuing that traveling, moving theme, when you get to a new city, what's like your first three things you're going to do to kind of implant yourself into this new environment?
I am like a walker, so I like to like walk the neighborhood, walk out, check out all the local spots, kind of just like people watch, sit down, chit chat, people watch, get some coffee. Number two, honestly, and I'm not just saying this on the list, is find the local FPA NexGen chapter and go to an event. That's the easiest way I can make a friend. It was so great in San Diego. And then when I went to Virginia Beach, I just went on LinkedIn and I was like, who do I know that is in this chapter? Found the president, sent him a message, He said, "Hey, we're having a top golf event this weekend. Do you want to come?" Perfect. So I went there, met him, I actually brought a friend that I knew through NexGen. And then same with Alexandria. Mike, you're also in this chapter. So sometimes we get to run into each other, but it's such an easy way to just have friends right away and a community right away. And then number three, oh, a workout studio. Find a great workout studio, either ClassPass or whatever, and just find the community.
Okay, so then once you got settled down, working these remote positions, they're becoming more and more available, especially in financial planning. How do you handle the remote environment with all the distractions, the cats running around,
hmm
everything?
It is not always easy, and I feel like every day brings a different challenge. I kind of had to make my own schedule and really stick to it. Like it's really great to say, "Hey, I work remote, I'm flexible, I don't have set hours," but that can really catch up to you, and you're a little too lenient with it. So just kind of creating a schedule that really works and sticking to it. Especially for me, right now, the firms I work with are based out of Denver. And so I have about a two hour head start on them. So what works for me every morning, I get up, take a walk to a workout studio, take a class, get back. I have enough time to make breakfast, get ready for the day, and get to my desk around 10. And that flexibility is really great, but it's also made me realize how much a morning routine is what helps me focus once I sit down at my desk.
I have a couple of questions for you. I want to know more about your morning routine and what you do to set yourself up for success throughout the day. And then I have a follow-up question about your actual work and how you've gone through your career as a W-2 employee and how that has felt to transitioning to more contract work and having more of this flexibility with the remote style work.
Okay, I'm not always great with the double question, so if I miss the second one, remind me to go back. My morning routine, I have been trying to get really intentional with like scrolling and not using my phone. So I've actually got like the brick that makes me just lock it out and leave it away, and that does not go near my bed. I'm not allowed to scroll in bed at night, not in the morning. I set my alarm and get up. So hopefully on nice days, I walk about, a mile to my workout class, go to my workout class, come back, and then get ready for the day. I do work at two different firms, so important to me to make kind of a priority list for each and say, if I get nothing else done today, what do I need to get done for each firm to make sure all of my clients across the whole board feel taken care of? And then a second question was about W-2 to 1099 work.
Yes, going into how you worked as a W-2 employee and how you evaluated what fit your needs as your own individual financial planner and how that has portrayed itself as being a 1099 contract worker.
Okay, perfect. So my first firm was W-2. It was a full-time associate financial planner role, and they just happened to work in the divorce space. So it was not something I was really like seeking out. Just felt like it was a great fit. It was right in the area I wanted to live. Everything seemed to line up really good, and I actually the XYP on Facebook page, I'll just plug it, has the best for like job opportunities and just like random conversations. And so I found my employer through there. We just hit it off, and so it felt like a really good fit after I spent some time there and just kind of my own growth. It was a small firm, and I knew I just wanted to try some other stuff out. And so when I made the decision to leave there, I kind of took the opportunity of seeing these contractor roles or these part-time roles or 1099 roles all over like Simply Paraplanner and like other job postings. And I was like, how can I try on a few different firms without committing to another role? And I was just feeling a little, both in my personal life and professional life at the time, like I was making just some big decisions and changes, and I just couldn't commit to anything beyond like a month. I was just like, whatever the next month brings, that's what I just need to get through. And so I started, I guess, yeah, trying on these firms, working with different people, see what worked, see what didn't work, see where I fit and where I didn't fit. And I wasn't quite ready to give up on the divorce space, even though I was leaving that previous firm. But not many firms have that like really intense focus that I was used to working with. So I was able to do some divorce work over here while also keep doing some associate planner work for two very different firms. And it was actually really interesting because one of the firms was like very family oriented, like very traditional, like husband, wife, kids, religious type thing. And then I was doing like divorce work, which is just like sometimes two totally different things. But I was trying on a lot of things and I was seeing what worked and what didn't work. And I kind of kept doing that. And so I found other places that I could do it and kind of built together my own schedule. And I guess that brings me to where I am today. I am a contractor on both sides, but I'm not looking for other opportunities. Like I feel so much more settled now in these two roles, and I don't know if I would have unless I had that ability to like go through different iterations of different firms and stuff.
So I think the way I want to go is how do you handle working for two different firms, two different set of clients, and it sounds like two different niches that they work with. So how do you handle just flip-flopping back and forth throughout the week?
So I think previously when I was working on the divorce work over here that was so disconnected from this work, it was really hard and it never really had like much of an overlap. But now the firms I'm working with, so Wellspring Divorce Advisors, based out of Denver, I work with a lady who's a CPA, and she's been doing this very specific divorce work for a while. And like we say, she has magic. She works with high net worth clients, often as a neutral. And these clients just want to amicably split for the benefit of their kids, grandkids. They want to preserve their relationship. They know they have enough money to go around. They just have to figure out how to do it. And so we work very closely with these clients, with their attorneys. And by the end of the time you're working with them, it's also very natural that one of them will leave their current advisor and wants to work with someone long term. And so the firm I'm at now has a relationship with the other firm. And so a lot of my clients, I'm able to just keep that relationship going on the wealth management side. And so now that I have that connection too, it is easier to work at these two firms kind of separately.
I'm glad that you have a good working relationship between the two firms. I know whenever we had conversations back when you were working at your other firm, it was a little bit of a juxtaposition in your workday of different types of priorities
Mhm.
throughout different times in your schedule. So it's nice to have that alignment going through in your career
Mhm.
now.
I would
And
say
so
I still have like one of my issues right now too is still just, and I think everybody at every firm has this, especially if you're an associate advisor, like juggling multiple advisors or something. It's just like what takes priority, like what in a day takes priority. And so I have that between the two firms, but also I think a unique thing is like how do I need to show up for whatever meeting? Because I could be going from a meeting with both husband wife both of their attorneys and it's a big team meeting and maybe it's emotional there's some stuff and then the next meeting I could be going to deep budget work with a divorce client and then moving over to the wealth management side and talking about long-term projections and then in between I'm doing a lot of spreadsheet stuff so I think it's just like how you show up for each meeting can also be the struggle not even the task sometimes.
you have shown up in major ways for FPA and NexGen as a whole. And I'd love to explore how you have gotten involved with FPA and how you decide what you're saying yes to in order to accelerate your career or accelerate your own personal development.
I got involved in Next Gen by just going to some happy hours in San Diego. And then the Vegas gathering in 2022, I believe, was my first gathering. And honestly, I dreaded it going into it. Like, I was just like so nervous about it. Like, I didn't think at that point, I was really questioning if financial planning was like for me. I was working at a firm. I was the only associate advisor. It was a small firm. And I was just like, all my problems felt like my problems. And so I just wasn't excited. But then the second I sat down and I remember the people at my table, and I'm not going to name drop them, but I remember the people at my table. And within not even 5 minutes of gathering kicking off, like I had this weight just come off. And I was like, wait, this is going to be fun. Like I like these people. They're all having the same struggles as me. They're all trying to figure out their future. And so, and then just icing on the cake was Emma Cram was my cohort leader person. And just seeing someone so bubbly and fun and a young female, like just kick ass like at that conference I was like okay this is really cool this is the place I want to be this is where I want to pour my energy into and like there's a spot for everyone And so she then encouraged me to sign up for co-chair the next year with her. And of course I was going to say yes to that. I actually told her no. But then I was like, okay, if you believe in me, then I can do it. And so I ended up doing that with her and I really had the time of my life. Like I think just gathering in general is such a fun time and then being able to just like go up and be vulnerable ourselves and then have that energy for the people in the crowd. Like that was our main goal. And I think we nailed it. We did like a funny dance thing to Barbie. And then the next year I got to be the chair with Adaro and like having him DJ like our own remix. Like I was like, is this work? Is this financial planning? So just that whole energy of gathering, I loved it so much. I tell everyone to go.
Yeah, for those that weren't there, the first year was the purple jackets with the Barbie
Hot pink,
theme.
hot pink.
Hot pink jackets. And then the Odaro did the remix, so you had your own song to walk out to. That was pretty
Hmm.
cool. What logistically goes into coordinating an event for 200 people plus
Hmm.
sponsors?
Well, I have to shout out Rebecca at FPA because it wouldn't have been what it is without her and obviously everybody else in the background. But she really helped us stay in line when we were planning this gathering. It starts with a big pillar of it is we want to hear from the next gen community and we want to make sure we're planning a conference that people actually want. And so a big thing is sending out the, initial call for ideas and actually taking the time to go through each single line item of speakers, topic suggestions, everything, and saying, would this resonate? Would this be good? And we always started there to build it. And then from there, early on, you meet every week from like maybe January to March or April. And then you kind of switch off to every other week once you get the main stuff taken care of. But you focus on first figuring out the keynote and then going down to what breakout sessions do we want. And then each next gen leader chooses a cohort leader. And that cohort leader is either someone who inspired them, has mentored them, is just a big voice in the community that they knew would really help those cohort spaces. And then you just build all the fun stuff around that.
So now that you have successfully planned FPA gatherings and you have retired from that role, how are you staying involved in the financial planning echo chamber or ecosystem? And not necessarily just with FPA, but just staying involved and keeping your community afloat.
Last year, I was on the PR committee and kind of helped with the social media. Um, this year, I feel like I just graduated and it felt like my time, but I still have FOMO, like bad. So Jake had texted me, I don't know, a month ago, something came up and I was like, oh, is this an SOS for me to come back? And he's like, well, you're always welcome. So I don't know. I always joke that I'm not quite done, but I'm definitely taking, I knew this year just in my life work wise was going to be really busy and just kind of navigating some things. So I really didn't feel like I had enough energy to pour into next gen as much as I have. Even though there was a position I really had my eye on, I just knew I couldn't give it the service it needed. So right now, FPA wise, I have stepped back a little. I'm still going to go to FPA Gather this year. It'll be my last one, but I'm finding other ways to volunteer in my community here. That's not quite financial planning focused, but sometimes that also is a good thing when you're kind of working a little too much or like a little too involved with it all the time. It's fun to step back and do something a little more easygoing.
Where are you volunteering now?
I volunteer at the local animal welfare league and I just absolutely love it. I spend a lot of time in the cat room and doing the community events. We do food drives for people, but we also bring animal food and then like vaccine clinics, or we just had the Alexandria dog walk this past weekend and there was like 2,000 dogs and it was raising money for the animal shelter as well as sustainability.
What a great way to you've been working all week, you're stressed. A way to be in the community, give back your time, and be around cute dogs. Hell
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
What else do you do outside of work that maybe directly or indirectly feeds back into refilling, your drive to be successful, to work with clients, to serve them?
I love to travel. And I feel like that just keeps my mind open to opportunities, different cultures, different ways of life, different ways of thinking. I will pretty much say yes to any trip someone asks me to go on. I'll say yes in a heartbeat and then figure out the planning later. So I'll always be traveling. What else do I like to do? Arts and crafts, like leaning into my creative side. Tomorrow I'm going to an event in DC. It's called Analog Nights, where you just get off your phone and you just sit in an art museum and do some crafts. And I think just for me, I get so stressed about work and stuff. And so anything that's stress reducing outside of work, even if it's just taking a long walk, being by the water, that's usually what I need.
It is a delicate balance. A lot of financial planning is very intense. It's very emotion driven, especially in the divorce space. And you need to hold space for all of that for your clients that you meet with. And making sure that you are able to show up in the way that you need to for those meetings is really important. And so making sure that you have time to decompress, de-stress, and clear your mind is absolutely valuable to showing up as you are intending to show up as a financial planner for your clients.
I just had a
And
client today
mhm,
in my meeting. She was like, how do you do these meetings every day? Like she's like, do you ever get like stressed or overwhelmed or like just sad about these things? And I kind of reframed it as like, yeah, sometimes it can be really draining. I'm a very like empathetic person. Like I feel a lot of emotions, and sometimes after a long day, I do feel it. And but then I also feel the other side of it. And when I'm in a meeting, when a client starts the meeting maybe really fearful or nervous about something, and then I can tell by the end of the meeting that they're just feeling so much better just because I sat there and talked to them, that makes up for it. So
how did you discover that financial planning was a calling for you and discover the wonderful things that you're able to accomplish in this field?
this is kind of a long story. But when I was growing up, my family was very, especially my dad, very open to talking about money stuff. He was an entrepreneur, they had real estate. He was a VP of finance at a place. I grew up going to his office, stuffing envelopes. Like I was very much involved. And from a young age, I was always finding ways to make money in the most funny ways. He would always make sure we saved some of it. And so it was like a routine to like then save it. And then when I finally got of age, he was like, okay, now let's invest it. So like I remember, I think over a decade ago, my first like tax refund, I invested it. And so like just starting that started early. And so I was very attuned to that, but I had such a strong heart for just wanting to help people. And I never viewed this as like a helping profession. I really wanted to be a social worker, but my dad was like, no, you gotta go do something else. And I was like, why not? Man, he was just focused on, he's like, you gotta make some money. So I was also very much like, no, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm not gonna go to business school. Well, a semester into school, I ended up finding myself in the finance program and I ended up staying in it. I started an internship with a broker dealer. It was a very well-paying internship and it gave credit. So it's like, okay, let's just try this out for the semester. I ended up staying there for 2 years. And I really enjoyed starting to work with the clients. And during that time, I came across XYPN radio and the podcast. And so I was listening to that almost nonstop. I blew through all the episodes. I joined that Facebook group over a decade ago. And I was realizing, oh, okay, this is a profession where you can actually help people. You can work really closely with people. It's not as stuffy and pretentious as it kind of comes off as sometimes when you hear financial advisor. And so at the time, I had told my professors and I had told my boss and that I wanted to do this fee only financial planning. And a lot of them kind of laughed at me. They're like, that's not how you do it type thing, or like good luck, successful, whatever. But I didn't really let it discourage me, and it kind of was the opposite. It made me want to read into it more, figure out more and stuff. So I really dove into like all that XYPN content, everything like that, and figured out it was a profession I could see myself in.
I can't believe that's the reaction you got rather than support from,
Yeah.
mentors and things like that.
Well, I also, I mean, looking back, thought that too, but one side I was getting it from someone who was in the commission side, so that made sense. And then the other was just more or less like my professors that I feel like just still didn't really know of like fee only type of planning. Like it wasn't as prominent as it is now.
Now, I
Well,
will say that my college professors, whenever I was going into financial planning, told me if I didn't go to graduate school and if I didn't go into investment banking, that I wasted my finance degree. And so it's wonderful now that financial planning is getting much more recognition. It's a much more viable career path to start out in. There's a lot more
Hmm.
entry-level positions, but back in my day, whenever there was finance degrees instead of financial planning degrees, like there are at so many reputable universities now, it was really difficult to find mentors
Hmm.
and get buy-in for getting into the financial planning career. And so I'm happy that you stuck through it. I'm really happy that
Hmm.
you did that. What is something that you started or stopped doing that accelerated your career path in financial planning?
I kind of just started trusting my gut. I was kind of in a place where I knew I couldn't grow in that environment. And for a while, I blamed myself and I was like, oh, this is just a me problem. This is, I can't do this. I'm not good at this. And then I kind of took a step back and realized like your environment matters. Like there's other factors that matter in this. You have more control than you think you do. Just because you're young, just out of college, whatever, doesn't mean you kind of don't have a say in what happens or like how your career is going to unfold. And so once I started like trusting my gut and saying, you know what, I'm just going to do this and kind of figure out what I need to do, it kind of like snowballed. And once I made one hard decision, and even if it didn't go great, but I did it and I realized I could overcome it and then get to the next thing and just follow whatever my intuition was telling me, I realized trusting myself in that feeling was far more what was going to make me successful than just kind of staying the course, waiting it out, do your time type thing. That wasn't working for me.
so what does this next phase look like where you're trusting your gut?
I am finally feel like I'm falling into a really good routine with work, a really good connection between the two firms I'm working with. My confidence is building with the clients I'm working with. My boss is great, and I'm just trying to absorb so much from her, which I think back to some of the issues I was having just in past firms and things is I was trying to be someone I wasn't. Like I was trying to just look at the person that was teaching me or mentoring me or my boss or whatever it was, and I was just trying to be like them and show up to the meetings how they would, talk through things how they would. And I just realized I can't do that. I just needed to find my own voice, my own way. And so I feel like I'm doing that really well right now. And the people I'm surrounded by and the people I'm working with, the other advisors I'm working with, they're also seeing that, but also allowing me to be that voice of whatever I needed to be, but also like, oh, you're doing great. Like I would have never done that myself, but like you did great. And so like realizing that my differences are also worth celebrating, I guess, or whatever uniqueness I can bring to the table.
And I'm sure leading into that built even more confidence when
Hmm.
you're showing up for clients.
Yeah, and I think one thing I've always tried to I'm a very like warm person. Like I like I'm approachable, like I'm warm, I'm personable, and I let that shine through with clients and like especially divorce clients, they know I care about them. Like they know I'm gonna go like over the top for what they need. They know, I'm gonna read their separation agreement, every single detail, and make sure they get every single penny they were supposed to get, even if their ex-husband gives me a hard time. Like they know I'm gonna go draft an email and say, well, section blah 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 says this, and like I'm willing to spend extra time on them. Like they never feel like burdened by any work we need to do, extra work type thing. And just, I don't know, just making people feel really good and welcomed and stuff. And so I really allowed that to show through in my work and it's paying off really well.
You could feel that statement there that you really care, and that's going to win you a lot of clients over your career. Last question for me. Is there any advice you would give folks that are thinking about going the more contracting route, like things you should or shouldn't do if you want to go down that road?
Always ask for more money than you think. I mean, same with any negotiation, which we deal with this in divorce all the time. Even if we're working as a neutral, we tell one side, like, you're in a negotiation. You got to start on your highest point. They're going to start on their highest point type thing. So just don't come in out of the gate with your lowest. Factor in everything else you're going to have to pay for, your own insurance, employment tax, self-employment tax, factor all that in. Retirement savings, you're not going to have a match or something. So just make sure you're factoring that in. Pay your quarterly taxes. Be very intentional with the work you produce. I feel like it's really easy in a salary role to sometimes like let your to-do list like kind of pile up. And if you're not recording every single hour, sometimes it's hard to see how long you're spending on X, Y, and Z. But once you realize you have to like track every hour and figure that out, it can be a little overwhelming. So I guess just, yeah, be intentional with your work, with your time.
Just a logistical question. Are you paid on an hourly rate and then you bill based on the hours?
So I am billed, yeah, I have an hourly rate, but I have kind of the divorce side. She graciously also gave me a training thing because I realized I was like, I want to shadow this meeting, but I know we can't bill the client for both of our times for me just training. So she graciously gave me a training time, which is really great. But then otherwise, we bill similar to attorneys. So we take a retainer and then we bill hourly. She has a rate, I have a rate. So based on whatever we're doing client work. So it really is like tracking to the point one, like the 6 minute intervals like attorneys do. And sometimes it's hard because if I spend say 2.5 hours on like a really intense budget work or something, sometimes I feel so bad charging that. But like I also realize I spent so much time doing it and so it's just when you're actually billing per hour, it's just like so much sometimes more like in your face of how much time you're spending on stuff. So it's really good. And then on the RAA side, I am took a salary, figured out a fair salary, and then made it like an hourly amount.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure that you share with our listeners today?
I would say, I guess just anyone who has clients getting divorced, it can be like a delicate thing. And I know there's different compliance of, when they're getting divorced, blah, blah, blah. I think if, especially if you have a female working with you post-divorce, just make sure she feels heard. Make sure she understands what you're going through. Or like every time you're talking about investments, whatever, because we still are seeing for us a lot of clients where there's a high earner and then there's like homemaker, budget keeper, all that stuff. And there's a huge disconnect between the investments. And that's where the biggest like fear comes from and the fear of just not knowing what's going to happen to them type thing. And so just if you can just be a listening ear, you can provide informed education, you can really clarity and just like walking them through things, hand holding, just make sure everyone feels heard type thing.
Well, Nichole, thank you so much. It was wonderful hearing what you had to say, and I hope that everyone else found it as valuable as we did. Thank you again. This has been the Blueprint and FPA NexGen podcast.